Well, hello and welcome. We're doing our third and final video, and it must feel like we're getting close to done because we're about out of paper. So, if you will, with me, let's go ahead and let's make sure adjustments are good on camera, and then find your border sheet. That would be the next one we're going to work with. And there's lots of these pretty borders that we will not be using. That's okay. So the only two borders that I ended up decorating with were these two here. So I'm going to turn my paper and cut these two away. So I'm just going to cut along the border end and cut that border away. And I'm going to cut it again on the other side. Nice and straight. All right, so we've got that strip, and now let's cut these pretty snowflakes away. And that's it for those two. Now we will use the pretty dots for our front cover. And we may use this, since you'll see later that we've got to make an adjustment, but I wanted to get those cut out. So I like to do the front cover now first. So let's get to the front of our little albums. And we need to find the cut apart that is called Joy. I thought that was so pretty. So first of all, mine's a little wider than 3 because I had a little white piece left from where I cut it apart. So now we want to take this piece of Joy, isn't that sweet? And we're going to cut it 1/8 away on all 4 sides. So I'm at the 3 and I'm going to move it 1/8 and cut 1/4 turn. Now I'm at the 4 and I'm going to move in 1/8 and cut 1/4 turn. Now, because I've cut it to 3 1/8, I'm going to move it all the way over to 2. Not 3 1/8, 3 7/8. I'm sorry, I took 1 away. So now we're at 2 3/4. 1/4 turn, and now we're going to move over 1/8 to 3 3/4. So we've just shrunk this down, but we've maintained the center of the focal point. We want to glue this to a piece of red foil. So find one of your pieces, and they may be buried, so take your time. Find your red foil, and we're going to cut this to 3 by 4. Okay, and then this should fit nicely onto that red foil because we trimmed it down. So I'm just putting some glue on the back of Joy. I'm going to bring it up to my 3 by 4 piece. So it's got a pretty red foiled mat on it. Just like that. Now this piece, I did put foam tape on the back of it. I will tell you I'm out of foam tape at the moment. So I'm going to use a scrap piece of chipboard, which works nicely, by the way. Whoops, let go. So you put foam tape, I'm using chipboard. And I like it to be smaller than the image so it hides underneath the naked eye when it sees that on the album cover. But this is where we're going to add some dimension. We can let that be drying for a minute. So set that aside. And then we need a piece of our, let's start with dark green. So I've got this piece here. So it's already 4, so I'm going to cut it to 5, and I'm going to make sure that's 4 because I had a few that were wider. So 5 by 4 is the dark green. And I'm going to let you take that for a second. Save this guy. We'll use him later. I don't know. We've got one piece that we haven't cut into, so I'm going to see if that's tall enough. Yeah, so that piece that we just cut, you can use either piece of red foil, just whatever's left over. You'll have a little bit more to work with if you wanted to mat a photo or something like that. So we've got our piece of green that we just cut to 4 by 5. So we're going to cut this to 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to make sure I've got my 5 1/4 cut first, and then 4 1/4. We're going to glue this green to that red. So let's go ahead and do that next. So we're making a great big focal point to design on the left side of our cover. Okay, and then I added one more layer to this. So find that leftover stripes. We're going to use the dots on this side. And we're going to cut our dots 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. And that's going to be centered up here onto the green, just like that. So let's glue that on top. Just centering it up, top, bottom, left, right-ish. It'll look straight to the naked eye. On the back of this, we also want to put foam tape. So you use foam tape. I'm using scrap cardboard. So I'm going to go. And if you like this idea of scrap cardboard, use it. There's only so many things we can do with scraps. And this works just fine to add dimension on a cover. Okay. So I believe our joy should be dry enough that we're going to glue that centered up to the dots. So let's put that together. Okay, so there's my cover. Bring our album in, and we're going to center this to that left side. All right, so I'm going to let that sit and dry for a minute, and we'll glue it down. Let's decorate this. So let's find our strip of poinsettias that we took off of the border sheet. So here's mine right here. I'm going to cut it to 6 tall. And then remember we had those long skinny pieces of foil. I can't find mine. Here they are. Instead of throwing these away, I'm going to cut them both to 6. Here's a 6. And here's a 6. Oops, that one's kind of got a wrinkle. Might as well cut it at the nice end. And what I'm going to do is put a bead of glue along one of my edges here. Way more glue than I'd like. So I'm going to smear it and just leave an edge. Nobody will know that's not a full sheet of paper under there. So I've got a nice even edge of my red foil. Okay, I'm going to flip over and do the same thing on this other edge. So I'm just going to put a thin bead, as thin as I can. Pick it up where I can hold it and see. Lay my red foil. I'm just going to kind of slide it in place till I like what remains showing. Just about like that. So it's just a frugal way to use up your scraps. And no one would know that that wasn't a full sheet of paper. And then that's going to go on our front panel, right there centered up. So that we can go ahead and glue down. I did not add any dimension underneath that. Just kind of eyeballing where my center is. Okay, and I'll bet our large focal point is dry enough that we can glue that onto the front. So let's get out our glue. You might be peeling away the release tape on your foam tape. I'm gluing my chipboard. And I'm paying attention, I'm centering from the edge of my cover flap, my closure. So just this box that remains is where I'm going to center it up. And that's our cover. So I'm going to let that sit for a minute. And I know that we need to find this piece. Don't open until Christmas. I didn't use that. If you like it, you can. But I used my pair of scissors and I fussy cut out the two little presents. So I'm going to do that next while I'm letting that stuff all dry. This is a big bulky pair of scissors for fussy cutting. And maybe you want to save the words, so be careful when you're cutting out. You want to use it later in the album. You can do that. Okay, so there's my little presents. All right, so now let's open up our album. And I'm going to close it. I'm going to make sure I've got it all closed in the right order so that we can decorate in the right order. So at the very bottom, I've got left or right, left, right, left. So that's how the album lives. And I'm going to go open up my demo and just make sure we get it as close to how I designed it. All right, so this is where I used the red snowflakes. So we're going to cut that to 6 as well. So we're going to trim that to 6 tall. And we're going to glue it on that top page to the far right here, just leaving about 1/8 of an inch. Just adds a few little splashes of color. And I go far over so that there's plenty of room if you want to feature a beautiful family photo. All right, so I'm going to open my page. And the next page here, we need to find our ornaments right here. Okay, and we're going to cut these. This is old, like probably my Creative Memories days. We're going to make corners. So I'm going to turn it now. So make sure that it's facing, you can see your ornaments facing the correct way. Let's just carefully turn it so that our right top corner and our bottom left corner are the two that we're going to meet up and cut on that diagonal. Okay, so we're going to go all the way to the red Christmas writing and put one on the top left corner. Because I thought, why would we want to waste that beautiful gold foiled paper? We wouldn't. So that's why I dug out the old corner idea. Okay, and then we'll open it up and we'll do the bottom corner of the opposite red. Just putting glue on the back of my triangle. Okay, this center area, because I did the stripes by accident, it's still okay, but you're gonna have double stripe because that's where I put this pretty piece of holly, but I think it goes okay. So find a scrap piece of your white paper. I've got a scrap piece here, so find a scrap of white and then find your dark green as well, because we're going to work with these 3 pieces next. We're going to work on the bottom base. So if you didn't put glue on the wrong side, you might have cute stockings up. I did, so I've got stripes and it's just fine. So I need to move my album out of camera for a minute so we can do a few cuts. The first one, we'll start with the white. It's just a 4x6 mat. So 4x6. And then our green is going to be 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. And we're going to glue that on top of the white. So it's like a little add-on to our photo album. Okay, I'm going to bring this back into camera because what we're going to do now is adhere this like a little flap that we can hold underneath. So I'm going to put glue just on the back side of this left side. And I think I'm going to like art glitter glue for this better. You want your berries on the top. It's just a thin bead of glue, and I'm going to adhere it to the edge of this paper, and as much as I can centered top and bottom. So, and I want to let it dry a little bit, but it won't be glued here. And then our little photo mat that we just created can tuck in just like that. So everything is done with these pages, the bottom and the 2 red with the ornaments. All right, so as I close this, pardon my reach, let me get to my album. Oops, I got 2 sticking here. This one, I used the scrap of our poinsettia. Doesn't even need to be cut because it was already cut to 6 for the front. So let's glue that down. So you understand that you're not worried about which one you're gluing to. Here's our bottom, the very base of our album. That's our red to the right. If we flip it in, it's this piece that we're going to add the poinsettia to. Okay. And we're coming in just about 1/4 inch. Okay, I didn't do anything else to the red of the trees because I thought that was a lot going on. So let's close this one up. See if I can get to just 1 page. There we go. So now when I go to that page, I am out of this paper, and that's what I used for my stripe. I'll show you for my demo album. So I don't know what I did to cut differently, but I don't have this piece. And I think you would have cut like I cut. So you don't either. So we can either use this piece, which is cute, or you could put a whole sheet of borders, which is kind of cute. That's that piece. I think it's already cut. I'm going to use that piece, and it's 7 3/4 is our cut, and no one will know the wiser. So cut it, this little extra border, and if you like this side up, use it. 7 3/4. And I kind of like the dots because it's the dots in the back of the trees as well. So it kind of brings it all together. And I'm going to glue it just about 1/8 from the bottom. Again, I do not know what cut I made that we do not have that. But I looked everywhere. I don't have any of it laying around. Okay, so then we need to find the 3x4 card that has kind of the berries and the holly around it. This one here. And the bigger gap at the top between the lines is the top of your card. So I'm going to glue that just about like that. And I actually need to clean mine up here. There's a little extra green when I cut them apart. So if you have that on any of your edges, clean up your edge. So it's a nice crisp 3x4 card. And again, I said sometimes mine slides, so I'll flip it to get where it kept sliding. That's going to go here, leaving room for a nice photo. And again, my tree on this side, I didn't do anything either. Just let it be because it was so much going on. All right, and then I know we fussy cut those presents. That's what we need next. Could take me a minute to find mine. There they are. So I just glued these kind of to that corner there. I kind of just hugged that corner of that journal box and glued those together. And if you want to wait and do these after you put your photos on, that's good too. Okay, I have to go back. Right, left, right. Nothing on that guy. Let me make sure I'm not lying. Oh, I lied. We're doing the other side of that border to that side. So the top one, we went to the right. This one, we're going to go to the left. So find your last piece of snowflake border. You don't even have to cut it again because they're both 6x6. Okay, and right. So those are all decorated. Now, there's one last step, and you can use these for any other decoration that your creativity wants. You've got this left, a couple other scrap pieces, but you have a whole sheet here of this pretty, oops, got a piece of a note, poinsettia paper. I'm looking around to see if I have a better pair of scissors, but I'm not finding them. So I'm going to cut apart just a couple of poinsettias. 2 for sure we're going to want. And you can go crazy and keep cutting if you'd like. I think fussy cuts are pretty. But we're going to cut one and add him right there. Okay. And then there's one more we add on one of our closure papers. Let me find it. Pardon my reach. Okay, so it is this guy right here. I put another poinsettia right there. And that's the only ones I added. And I guess you don't have to watch me cut one out, but I'll at least get the piece cut and placed for you so you know where to put it. But that one's going to go right there. So I'll get it cut out real nice and glued down. And that's everything. So it would close here, then here, then here, then here, and then your poinsettia gets glued, and there's a little overlap on that, and that's just fine. Let me close the demo one. Let's see, there, then there, then there. So here's the one that I did. So you can see that it does overlap, but you're touching here to open up your closure. So I think that's okay. And then we close and close. All right, I'm not gonna make you watch me fussy cut, but thank you so much for joining. I'll finish cutting this out and get it glued down and then clean up my mess. All right, I'm gonna kind of touch, close, and here's the one we did together. I'm gonna have to work because I don't like how this is curving. So again, that's the product you use. So if you feel like sometimes you don't have a good finished product, try what whoever your teacher is, what they're saying that they use, and maybe yours will match up better. So a lesson learned. I was showing why I didn't like art glitter glue there, and it really taught me. I mean, I just really didn't like how it curved that paper. I'm just kind of trying to curve it back. Make it mine. Show that paper who's boss. Live and learn. I do that all the time. Okay, guys. Thank you. Bye now.